All right, let's do the first movement from the Tai Chi Chuan set. This is called Commencement. But before we can even go through Commencement, we've got to get our stance right so that we're taking care of proper basics for our Tai Chi practice. So I like to start from my normal everyday walking around stance, which I lovingly refer to as stand like a dork, because as you know from the introduction, I'm pretty much a big old gaming dork. But what I want to do is move from that kind of day-to-day stance into a Tai Chi stance. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my feet shoulder width. Now what shoulder width means is that if my shoulders were to fall straight down, they would fall straight onto my feet. So I don't want them to be too wide, and I don't want them to be too narrow, but I want them to be straight underneath my shoulders. So the first thing to do is to take a moment to get that to feel right. The next thing is my feet are going to be pointing straight forward. That's the way we start our Tai Chi Chuan set. We don't want to have our feet flared out or pointed in with our toes, but our toes are in a straight line forward, parallel lines. The next thing I'm going to do is take care of my knees. So normally we stand around with our knees pretty straight. Sometimes they're very locked, but what I want to do is just unlock them. So it's no big drop here. I'm not squatting down low and putting pressure on my knees or on my quads. What I'm doing is just going from a normal stance to just unlocked, okay? Once I've got that set, I'm going to take care of my pelvis. Now, normally we walk around with our pelvis kind of slanted forward. The back is up higher than the front, and I like to visualize this as a serving tray. The metaphor that I use is that it's a serving tray with shots of flaming tequila, so if it slid forward, that would slide off on the ground. You'd have a fire on your hands, and who wants to do that during a party? So I want to keep the tray flat to the ground. So how I do that with my pelvis is I'm going to push down and forward slightly with my tailbone, and then with the muscles just below my belly button, I'm going to pull up on the front of my pelvis. So now my pelvis is flat to the ground, and it forms kind of like a bucket. Now into that bucket, my upper body is just going to drop. I want my spine to be very straight, and I want my head to be nice and upright and slightly rising towards the sky. And how you can visualize that, or energetically what you can imagine, is that there's a string from the crown point of your head pulling up gently. So your spine's elongated and nice and straight, your pelvis is flat, your knees are unlocked, your feet are shoulder width, and they're pointed in parallel direction. Your shoulders are relaxed, they're not drooped or slumped, and they're not up tense. They're just kind of naturally down. And that's how we're going to start our Tai Chi. And then we're going to do the commencement. So the first movement is commencement, and our arms come slowly up to shoulder level with the hands dangling. Then the hands flatten to be parallel with the ground, and we pull our elbows in and down to slide our hands back to in front of the body. Then we push down in front of the body, and as our hands pass our belly, we drop just slightly. So let's go through that again. We're going to bring our arms up, hands dangling, flatten the hands, slide them back, dropping the elbows, push down, sink down. What I want to watch for is as I'm coming up, I don't want to go too high, I don't want to go too low, I want to go straight parallel with the ground. And then as I bring my elbows back, I don't want to flare them outwards. They're going to drop down along the sides of my body. I'm going to push down, keeping my elbows in, and I'm going to sink slightly. So that's the commencement. We come up, slide back, push down. So let's go ahead and do that together. So if you could stand with me, that would be great. We're going to go get into our basic stance. Our feet are shoulder width. Our feet are pointed forward. We unlock our knees. We push with our tailbone and slightly forward. We pull up on the front of the pelvis with the muscles of our abs, keeping them nice and engaged. Elongate the spine, string pulling the head up towards the heavens, shoulders dropped and relaxed. Arms come up, flat, pull back, and down, and sink. Now we're going to do that 9 times together. I'm just going to do it slowly with you. I'm not going to talk through the rest of it. Just kind of follow along with me as best you can. All right, here we go. Here's number 8. And number 9. And that's it. That's the first move of the set, and you're now doing Tai Chi.